And we are studying Chazown. All right, I have a confession. I love gadgets, and it doesn't matter if they're toys or tools. Great gadgets are just great to have. For instance, I found this one online the other day, and it's a beaver that sharpens your pencil. You know, it's just, the design says everything, doesn't it? It's like, you look at it and you go like, yeah, that's cool. And other people do these really simple designs, like this scale. This scale is just nicely designed. It really has no moving parts other than the flexibility of the metal tells you how much what you've put in there weighs. And so, like, sometimes simplicity is just the best design. But I have to tell you, my biggest weakness is tools. And I found this one online, and that is a wood plane. That little beauty will set you back $800. But it is beautiful. I mean, look at it. It's beautiful. And the quality and the craftsmanship, that thing's going to last forever. I don't think it's $800 beautiful, but it is beautiful. And the reason that I show you this is because what I want you to just think about is there is something amazing and beautiful about a beautifully crafted tool or item for a specialized job. And we're studying Chazown because you are this beautifully crafted being, and you've been crafted by God out of high quality pieces to do this amazing job. Every single one of you has this purpose and this design, and from the beginning of time, God sat down and He designed you to do something amazing. And so, He designed you to do a Chazown. So let's talk about Chazown. So the definition, it's a Hebrew word. It means vision, dream, prophecy, or revelation from God. And it's this combination of this picture of the future delivered by God to tell you what He wants to do with your life. Are you in the zone? You know, here's the amazing thing. Like, the announcements were a half an hour long because, like, you guys are stepping up to all kinds of cool things. Like, things are happening. I'm a little dizzy trying to keep up here, but that's all right because you guys are seeing these pictures of this church needs to be doing this, and people are stepping in and stepping up, and they're just owning it. And it's beautiful. And Nehemiah was this incredible guy who had amazing skills, and God comes down and convicts him and calls him to do these amazing things, and he starts diving in, and he's got the Israelites all pumped up and ready to go. And so we're going to go back to that, and we're going to look at how Nehemiah is doing in chapter 4. So Nehemiah chapter 4, we'll start at verse 1. All right, and so far, in chapters 1 and 2, we've looked at the fact that he got called into this Chazown. He got the supplies for the Chazown from the king, and then he went and he went around Israel and he carefully checked it out. He plotted, he planned, he organized, he called the people to action, and they jumped in, and things are really moving. Now, I'm skipping chapter 3. In chapter 3, Nehemiah tells us how he divided up all the work into these very specific roles, and each person is doing their thing, and everybody's working hard, and things are moving right along. And yet, everyone knows that with a project, there's probably something that doesn't go quite so smooth. At least for me, I always count on something in the project not quite going right. There's times when I'm shocked and I go like, wow, that one's smooth, and then I go on to the next thing. But there's times when things don't go well, right? And there's times when we struggle. And the book of Nehemiah is about this great story about a great leader who does this great work. And of course, there's those things that trip us up. And today we're going to look at the Chazown Killers, the things that get in the way of moving forward. And we're gonna look through those and see how they can affect our lives and see what we can do about it. And so we'll start in Nehemiah chapter 4, starting at verse 1. It says, "When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry, and he was incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, 'What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?' Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, 'And what are they building? Even a fox climbing on it would break down that wall of stones.'" So these two guys sound a lot to me like the bullies on the playground. You know, the ones that taunt everybody else and tease everybody else and make everybody else look bad. And there's that old saying that you maybe heard on the playground that goes, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." It's a great saying that isn't true, right? Yeah. I mean, we say that, but in fact, words can be weapons. And they can cut deeply. And that's exactly what these two guys are trying to do. They're trying to kill this Chazown. And so the first Chazown killer, I would call it ridicule. There are times when you get this vision from God and you're excited about it, and there is someone out there who is just talking it down, coming after you, making it sound crazy. And that can really hurt. And here's how Nehemiah handles it. Verse 4. "Hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders." And so we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. So, Nehemiah's emotions are strong in this prayer. I don't know, maybe you read it and you go like, but I've been on the end of ridicule where you have this Chazown that you're diving in on, and people are ridiculing you. And if it's a Chazown from God, if you're passionate about it, like there's something that goes off inside of you. And this prayer is a passionate prayer where he's like, we're being despised, and turn their insults back on their own heads and give them over it as plunder. Like he's asking God to take them captive and haul them away. And so he has a strong reaction to that. So anyway, Nehemiah and the crew, they're pressing on. They're moving forward. And you can sense there's a bit of energy in his voice. Like, we were getting things done. We're halfway up. All right? And then starting in verse 7, here we go again. "But when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's wall had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat." All right, so this is another Chazown killer. When people start threatening, and they come up with all kinds of threats of what they're going to do, and the obvious purpose of the threats is to distract and to create chaos, and I don't know if they factored this in, but Nehemiah is an expert in security, and so he secures the place, and they keep going. And so they're still pushing forward. And then in verse 10, it says, "Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, 'The strength of the laborers is giving out, And there's so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. Oh, there's this sense of discouragement. And I would even call it fatigue, that they were getting tired. And a lot of times these really big projects take a lot of energy, and you really have to push through. And how many Chazowns have just basically laid down and died beside the road because we got tired? There's some Chazown killers that come from outside, where we're attacked from outside of us. There are other Chazown killers that come from inside, where those voices talk to us, tell us it can't be done, tell us that it's too much energy, it's too much time, it's too much money, it's too much of something. And we just get discouraged from the inside out. Well, if you look at the rest of chapter 4, you're going to see details about how they continued to make progress and how they pushed forward. And so they're pushing forward, and then in chapter 5, we're going to pick it up again at verse 1. It says, "Now the men and their wives raised a great outcry against their fellow Jews. Some were saying, 'We and our sons and our daughters are numerous. In order for us to eat and stay alive, we must get grain.' Others were saying, 'We are mortgaging our fields, our vineyards, and our homes to get grain during the famine.' So others were saying, 'We have had to borrow money to pay the king's tax on our fields and vineyards. Although we are of the same flesh and blood as our fellow Jews, and though our children are as good as theirs, yet we have to subject our sons and daughters to slavery. Some of our daughters have already been enslaved, but we are powerless because our fields and our vineyards belong to others.' When I heard their outcry and these charges, I was very angry. I pondered them in my mind and then accused the nobles and the officials. I told them, 'You're charging your own people interest.' And so I called together a large meeting to deal with them and said, 'As far as possible, we have bought back our own fellow Jews who were sold to the Gentiles. Now you're selling your own people only for them to be sold back to us.' They kept quiet because they couldn't find anything to say." So he continues on and talks about how he deals with these guys. Basically, he brings them up in front of everybody and he gives them a lecture. He's like, "You guys, like, we worked so hard to buy these people out of slavery and bring them home, and you turn them into slaves again? What are you thinking?" And I looked at that and I was like, okay, so like what word summarizes that? And the only word that I could come up with was greed. Sometimes greed eats up our chazon because either we as people or our society around us is constantly begging for more of something else, and it eats up all of our energy and all of our resources for God's mission. And so we really have to check ourselves, don't we? Because it's easy to get caught up in the bigger and better attitude of I need a bigger house, I need a bigger car, I need I need more. And it's sacrificial. When you give yourself to a chazon, that's a sacrifice. Well, Nehemiah embarrasses these nobles to quit milking their own people. And here's the amazing thing. As I look at this, I go like, these guys are milking these people dry so that they can't build the wall. And what are they thinking? Because if they get the wall built, everybody benefits, including these nobles. So why would you become so greedy that you would actually keep what's really important from happening? And sometimes we place such a heavy emphasis on getting more money, more power, more whatever, that we forget what's really important, what really makes a difference. Well, in verses 14 through 19, Nehemiah explains that he even goes above and beyond. Here's what he does, is he's been named governor of the area. In other words, he is representing Babylon in that area, and he is the governmental structure. And you know what he does? He cancels all the taxes. And instead of taxing the people so that he can live, he takes it out of his own pocket. And in fact, he covers the expenses of the local government himself. In other words, he goes into super sacrifice mode. Because he's so committed and he's so passionate about making this happen, he goes over the top. So let's skip down to chapter 6 because, he solves one thing and things keep coming. When word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, and the Arab, and the rest of our enemies that I had rebuilt the wall, and not a gap was left in it, though up to that time I had not set the doors in the gates, Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message: "Come, let us meet together in one of those villages on the plain of Ono." But they were scheming to harm me, so I sent messengers to them with this reply: "I'm carrying on a great project and I cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you?" And 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. Then the fifth time, Sanballat sent his aide to me with the same message, and in his hand was an unsealed letter in which was written, "It's reported among the nations, and Geshem says it's true that you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you are building the wall. Moreover, according to these reports, you are about to become their king, and you have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. There is a king in Judah. Now this report will get back to the king, so come, let us meet together." And I sent him this reply: "Nothing like that, what you are saying is happening. You are just making it up out of your head. They are all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work, and it will not be completed. But I prayed, now strengthen my hands." Wow. These guys are trying every plot in the book to try to stop this from happening. And first, they plan an ambush, but again, Nehemiah is an expert in security. He's no fool. And so he sees this one coming. And so they up it and they go all the way to rumors. And so they're going to use rumors to try to manipulate him. Have you ever been the victim of gossip? Where people just make up something to make you look bad, or take something completely out of context just to use it against you? And you know that the whole purpose of it is just to manipulate you. Gossip is one of the 7 deadly sins because it's a deadly sin. It's amazing how much destruction happens when people start using false information to manipulate people. And technically, I've seen great pastors get taken out of their position because of a false rumor, or because it gets stretched or taken out of context. It's probably one of the easiest ways to take out a leader, is to create false information about them. And so I think that's why the Apostle Paul was so strong in his instructions. Here's a verse. This is what he wrote to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 19. He says, "Do not entertain an accusation against an elder unless it is brought by 2 or 3 witnesses." Unless 2 or 3 people saw it, don't even listen. Don't even take a hearing on it. Why? Because it is so easy to manipulate and take people out, take leaders out with it. And so this is another attempt that they're making, and Nehemiah is just going to stand strong. He's just going to have to stand up and go like, "No, it's not happening." Like, what else is he going to do? And that's what he does. And then in verse 10, it says, one day I went to the house of Shemaiah, son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut in his home. And he said, let us meet in the house of God inside the temple, and let us close the temple doors, because men are coming to kill you. By night they are coming to kill you. But I said, should a man like me run away? Or should someone like me go into the temple to save his life? I will not go. I realized that God had not sent him, but that he had prophesied against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He had been hired to intimidate me so that I would commit a sin by doing this. And then they would give me a bad name to discredit me. And then he says, remember Tobiah and Sanballat, my God, because of what they have done. Remember also the prophet Noadiah, how she and the rest of the prophets have been trying to intimidate me. Okay, now, this one is the most painful Chazown killer out there. And the reason that it's so painful is because you believe that this person is your friend and is on your side, and you have a love connection with them, and then they betray you. Betrayal cuts the deepest. It just opens you up, and it's hard to even describe how much that hurts. You're thinking that this person is your friend, and instead this person is your enemy. And in this particular case, it was all about money. And it's amazing what people will do to betray you. And I wonder how many Chazowns have been assassinated by betrayal. Where someone professes, I'm on your side, and then they turn around and they stab you in the back. Now, here's what I want to do. We covered a wide variety of Chazown killers. I wonder how many Chazowns have been either set back or completely destroyed by one of these killers. I'm not claiming that this is like the total list of all the Chazown killers out there, but these are some of the common ones. And I want to give you just a few statistics just to give you some kind of idea of how destructive these are. These are old statistics by now, but I think they give you some kind of context. Did you know that 1,500 pastors leave the ministry every month? Did you know that 80% of the pastors and 84% of the pastors' wives feel unqualified and discouraged in their ministry? Did you know that 80% of the students who graduate from a seminary or a Bible college will leave the ministry within the first 5 years after graduating? Every one of those people had a Chazown. They felt called and they felt passionate. And by the time they left, they were defeated. And why? And why? Sometimes, society in general attacks them, but oftentimes there's some form of betrayal. And I'm thinking, what could we do to be a place where, we were protecting each other? Because I'm talking about this for two reasons. Number one, I want you to be able to protect every one of your Chazowns. Nehemiah did this amazing job. He was an expert in security. He did an excellent job of protecting the Chazown. He found ways to battle through every one of these killers. And so, by us being aware of what can happen, when we're careful and when we think, we can avoid a lot of these pitfalls, right? And I want you to not only protect your own Chazown, I want us to protect each other's Chazowns. Right? Can you imagine having a whole church behind you? That when things are tough and when you're discouraged, there's a whole church going like, no, go for it, keep moving, push forward. And we can watch out for each other. Oh, watch out, there's a pitfall coming. There's this Chazown killer that I know about, and you're headed down that direction, and I'm just here to back you up and make sure you don't fall down. Can you imagine how beautiful that is? You know, we as elders are finalizing our values, and one of them is called authentic relationships. Authentic relationships are where everybody gets to actually be real and go like, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what's not going well, or you know, this is what I see in you, and just out of humility, I'm calling you away from it. Don't go there. Where's that sense of real authenticity with each other, where we go like, I'm here to back you up. I'm here to cheer you on. And having those types of relationships with each other is just this beautiful thing. And so I see what's happening. I see, you know, the kids' ministries are all up and running. We've got some fun things planned. We've got great things happening. So how can we protect each other's zones? How can we make this multiply? Because I love the fact this is moving. People were hunting for seats walking in. This is awesome, right? So let's keep this moving. Let's press forward, because I believe that the book of Nehemiah isn't just a book that tells us what happened. It's a book that tells us how to keep our zones on track. And so I'm going to give you just a minute to bow, to pray, to connect with God. The worship team is going to move into place, right? Okay, so the worship team's going to move into place for that last song. But use this time just to talk to God about the Chazown Killers out there and how we can have authentic relationships with each other and build each other up. Use this time for prayer, and then I'll close in prayer as well.